Started onto the webinar. Welcome to MGISS. We first have those typical facilities announcements. There are no fire alarms expected, and that hasn't happened in this room previously when we've been presenting like this. So no fire alarms today, and I'm sure you all know where your toilet is. So you don't need to know where the MGISS facility is. So MGISS, precision meets prevention is the theme of this presentation, and across the next 45 minutes or so, we'll share the MGISS view of how companies may achieve success in the highways and construction projects by using GIS applications on-site and off-site for design, for stakeout, and for as built. Before we launch, I'm first going to introduce my colleague Darius. Darius, you want to say a few words of introduction?
Hi, good morning all. It's great to see so many of you on this webinar. Very excited to be taking you through the demonstrations for precision meets prevention. So my name's Darius. I've worked in GIS for a number of years, about 15 now. It's making me feel quite old saying that number, but 5 years at MGISS, and I've worked in various roles previously, from construction, highways, surveying. So plenty of experience, and specialise in that, I guess, that high accuracy data capture, field data capture solutions, especially with the Esri stack. Brilliant. So I'm going to pass back to Eamonn to introduce himself.
Hello again, Eamonn Prowse. I'm the commercial lead at MGISS. I haven't joined the company back in November of last year, and I've worked in surveying and geospatial data acquisition, capture, and management basically all my life, and that adds up to a little over 40 years worth of experience in there. So moving on to the presentation itself. Precision meets prevention, as mentioned at the head, is the theme of our presentation today. And first of all, I'd just like to examine that statement and see what is meant by precision and what is meant by prevention. So the MGISS proposal here is that by adopting simple, cost-effective, plug-and-play GIS hardware interfaced with smartphones, tablets are commonly used, devices commonly used on site already in construction and highways project team. You can survey assets with precision, putting engineer quality data in the hands of the non-engineer. You'll be able to undertake reality capture scans of below ground assets, so accurately capturing directly into a 3D model. You'll be able to visualize data in the real world, but using augmented reality, all on the same device. So on the precision side, if we move to prevention on site, this means you can prevent service strikes, therefore improving significantly safety measures on site. You can prevent errors on site through using robust stakeout practices, those improved visualization tools. And you can prevent design issues by working with improved data. So that's for us is what precision meets prevention means. And we will break down into a number of processes as we go through our model today. We will look at capture using GNS technology to provide precise positioning for data collected either as points and lines or as scans. We can see a couple of the devices which can be used to provide those precise positions on screen there. Some Leica and some Arrow equipment. Manage data. So using Esri, ArcGIS Online, and MGISS data management tools to simplify those data management processes through automation. And using the data, using augmented reality tools to provide visualization of design or as built data, be this above ground or below ground. And MGISS, from MGISS perspective, we work as an end-to-end end-to-end through that process. We're experts in Esri, ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, geospatial technology integration, and spatial data management and automation. And as an independent company, we can advise on the adoption of best-of-breed technologies. We can provide the hardware and software you need to enable your own operations. And we can offer those support services to make sure that your teams will remain operational on site, effective, and delivering that value for your business. A little bit about MGISS ourselves, as a short background for anyone who is new to our business. So we're an independent consultancy, so we can offer the best bit for our clients' needs. We're in an SME. I always describe us as small but beautifully formed, with a team that are loaded with knowledge and experience in the sector. Our strapline used on there is using those, we're trusted to use geospatial software, mobile applications, and combine these to move from the precise location of assets and data to deliver that data insight. And a crucial point is that we work with key partners and players. As you can see on the dial on screen, some of those are listed on there, and we will touch on some of those companies as we go through. In terms of who we work with, on slide you will see recognised brands, big brands in the highways and construction sector. We will hear case studies, in fact, from 3 of the brands mentioned on screen, from Carnell, from FM Conway, and from MGISS, who are part of the Galliford Try group. You can also see on screen a number of large water utility companies. All of these are key logos, key brands that we work with. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen a quote which we're quite proud of receiving from our partners at Northumbrian Water Group. As I say, we're really proud to get those kind of feedback from our customers, and long may that continue. I'm going to pass to Darius at this stage to run through some of the detail that sits behind that capture, manage, and use processes. And during this, Darius will share some ground footage that we've recorded, and we'll also run a number of polls as we progress through those presentations. So, without further ado, Darius.
Brilliant, thanks, Eamonn. Yeah, so really the webinar from here on is going to be a series of videos which I'll do my best to commentate along with, and to really bring those 3 pillars to life: capture, manage, use, and see what we actually mean. So for the first video, we're going to demonstrate how easy it is with some basic equipment to capture your assets to centimetre level accuracy directly into ArcGIS Online. No surveying or engineering expertise required. Connecting firstly the GNSS receiver, and in this case it will be the FLX 100, a Leica device, to a mobile phone, and receiving those corrected positions down to 2 centimetre horizontal accuracy. GNSS capture in ArcGIS field maps, and then also smartform asset condition and inventory capture in another Esri app called Survey 123. Okay, let's get into it. So hopefully you can see the video coming through. Our construction worker whips out the device from his back pocket, the FLX 100, and within seconds mounted that on a survey pole ready to go. He also has his mobile phone clamped to the pole, which is an iPhone. In this case, the survey pole basically is used to improve positional, especially the height accuracy of the asset. Secondly, the GNSS receiver is Bluetooth to the phone. GNSS controller app, in this case Leica Xeno Connect, is then activated to initialize the RTK corrections required to achieve centimetre accurate positions. Now, this can take a few seconds, but we can see the accuracy start to come down. Yeah, here we go. And now that we have achieved 2 centimetre accuracy, Ed, our construction model, moves on to the data capture. We're using ArcGIS field maps here, and in this case, he's found a gully that we're performing a drainage asset survey on. Note that once the asset geometry is stored in ArcGIS Online, we perform background calculations to transform the height to British mean sea level using our Z-Transform plugin. So then we initialize the inventory inspection, which we're performing in Survey 123. And we're integrating Survey 123 just due to the advanced form capabilities and also built-in reporting capability. In this case, we're demonstrating a National Highways Drainage DDMS survey form. Now, photos are taken and attached to the record for evidence of the condition, and then the form is submitted. That's it. So once submitted, it must be noted that because we're capturing directly into cloud-based GIS, this record is instantly made available for both the back office team and also any field teams working in conjunction. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the second capture demo, and then we're gonna do a short poll after this. So that was a GIS-based data capture demo. But if an accurate 3D vector data asset record for long-term storage analysis is what you need, we'd recommend that approach. Okay, so now for something a bit different, the next video shows how using the same hardware, a slightly different configuration, we can capture a quick site scan for your digital records. The app that we're demonstrating here is called VGIS and presents a user an augmented reality view. The app also allows the capture of data via the reality capture scanning tool. And if you require that extra detail of a small area, maybe a complex cable configuration and open trench, then this approach using the VGIS AR app may be more appropriate. So the video starts with our construction worker calibrating the AR view in the VGIS app using the same Leica FLX100 receiver. All right, let's get stuck into this one. So firstly, Ed here is calibrating the AR view in VGIS using the same device mounted on a tablet this time. Having already gained the accurate position, the little walk here following the arrows provides the orientation to the app, and that's accurately calibrated now, ready to go. So the reality capture tool to capture detail of the open trench is opened, and the LiDAR camera here providing the capability to capture a super accurate point cloud. Basically, this tech wasn't even around a short while ago, so this is a massive leap forward. So the red drape on the surface helps the user, as this represents any parts of the surface that have not already been captured. All our work has to do is walk around the trench, and within a minute, it's captured a thoroughly accurate georeference digital twin of that trench. The last step is the processing, which again takes just around a minute, and this creates the 3D georeferenced mesh that can be draped on the surface. And we'll see how this can be used a little while later. Okay, so at this stage, we're going to actually launch a quick poll. Hopefully, you'll be able to see that come through in a moment. Just a quick question on how you capture your data, or even if you do right now. So hopefully you should see that come up on screen. So first question, how do you currently capture your asset data? A few options there. And secondly, what application do you use to capture? Hopefully you can see that and interact with that poll. Just give you a few more seconds to place your votes.
Yeah, results coming through. So yeah, we can see the result poll. Will share that in just a second.
All right, so we're going to end that poll now and share those results for your interest. So we can see the high accuracy GNSS is the most popular answer. It's great to see you capturing that quality data, and field maps is also a popular answer. Some of you may use more than one method, I guess, but we're just capturing the most popular. Okay, so let's stop sharing now and move on with the slides. So now we're going to move on to the manage section of the demo. So we're going to cover data conversion and data cleanse. Actually, data management probably considered the most boring part of the whole workflow, but preparing and QAing the data is still really essential to getting the value from the data. So how do we do less data management, I guess, and more data use? And typically that answer is streamlining and automation. The first managed video will demonstrate the power of Survey 123 for reporting and MGISS's capability to use automation to streamline what otherwise would be a very time-consuming, dull process. So let's get into this video. So we're going to jump back to our construction work, capturing that same gully again. This time there's a client requirement to rapidly produce reports as the condition surveys are completed. And a Survey 123 webhook has been configured here along with some web-based automation. And as soon as the survey is submitted, the webhook triggers the automatic generation of the report. And you can see the process here, which is running on the servers. And then finally, after a moment or two, the report will trigger the Outlook servers and an email is generated with an attachment. And this time we've configured the smart looking STC25 drainage report. But basically this process was potentially cuts out a large amount of manual work, and within minutes those results are in your inbox. Okay, so another touch on the managed section. So a common use case we've seen from customers is converting data between CAD and GIS. And this next video demonstrates CAD to GIS data transformation tool that we have built specifically for ArchGIS Pro. So it can be used for overlaying CAD plans and GIS as reference layers, used to correct positional inaccuracies in the same plans if you want to take them out and edit them, or simply to meet the requirements for storage and retrieval of a large number of plans. So a proper spatial database is needed for that, and typically GIS is the answer. All right, so there are many CAD to GIS conversion tools out there. However, for ArchGIS Pro users, we felt that we could improve on those by streamlining some of the existing tools and functions into one. Some benefits: retention of CAD styling, symbology during conversion. So we've added flexibility and efficiencies by prompting to choose specific layers that you wish to process. So cutting down what you don't need, basically waste. And then bringing data into GIS allows you to view CAD and BIM models in the geographical world and supplement with complementary GIS layers, which might help with analysis. So also bringing data into apps like field maps and VGIS allows you to position yourself in the field relative to those assets in the drawing. So dropping yourself into the drawing essentially. Okay. So we're going to launch another quick poll on data management. Just a single question this time. Hopefully you can see that. Just a quick question. You know, we're really interested to find out what challenges you have at the moment with data management. So there's some options there. Transformation, if that's an issue. Integration. Is it having the time to do the data auditing? You know, making sure the quality is good. Accessibility, storage, or is it those core data management skills that you're lacking, or none? Maybe you've no issues at all and you're doing it perfectly and you're very happy with what you're doing. Maybe you don't do it. So I'll give you a few more seconds to answer that question and we'll close that poll too. Thank you very much for participating. Hopefully you see those results on screen too. So it looks like shortage of data management skills might be the winner there. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting results. Again, we can provide a little bit of feedback on the results, but interesting to note that there are some have no challenges.
I know, yeah,
wow.
That's great.
Excellent. That's very impressive.
All right, So moving on to the final section, use of demos. By the way, just to come back on CAD Transform, it is available for free from MGISS Marketplace, and hopefully you'll give that a go if it's a workflow that's familiar to you. The final use section of the webinar demonstrates how quality data capture and management can lead to the holy grail, really, in terms of on-site awareness and all the safety elements that can come with that, as well as being able to perform accurate analysis and make well-informed decisions. The first VGISS video demonstrates how combining high accuracy GNSS, same equipment again, with highly accurate subsurface data sets can provide you with the ultimate in terms of on-site awareness. And by the way, this 3D GIS data in this case is all coming from a single source in MGISS Online. All right, so yeah, Ed here again is very simply attaching the Leica GNSS receiver to the iPad. Just twist that on and following RTK initialization, ready to load VGISS. So quick calibration process first. Again, he'll follow this arrow to gain that orientation to make sure those assets will drop in place in situ. And that happens within minutes that data's loaded in. And that essentially exposes those subsurface assets directly below you. You're confident in the accuracy because you're using that GNSS receiver. And VGISS is a really simple, intuitive app, and pre-dig can be vital site awareness tool. You see the feedback that you get from the app, what utilities you're looking at. It can give you indications of depth. You can adjust the visuals there to make it more sort of visually pleasing, and interact with the data there. So really useful tool that anyone can pick up and use with a bit of equipment. All right. So finally, we're going to look at the results of the captured scan. Typically, the real value here will be returning to site after a trench has been backfilled and using the accurate VGISS scan to basically reveal straight away what's underneath your feet. All right. So back on site again, and actually within minutes of using VGISS reality capture to scan that open trench, the same scan will be available for use. So we can see there jumping from capture to use within minutes. Firstly, following the calibration, we'll turn on the relevant scan layer, and we can see that on screen there. Although that trench has been backfilled, now we can see essentially time travel to go back to an earlier stage of the project when the trench was exposed. Again, using highly accurate GNSS through the project, we're confident the scan has been positioned accurately. Additionally, the VGISS, the vSite web app, which is a companion app for your browser, allows the back office team access to the same scan trench, providing that synchronous real-time data journey for all project teams. So really useful, and you can use that to take measurements. You can dispatch the field teams back out to capture more data, all from this back office interface. Okay, so one more quick poll just based on the final pillar, if you like, use section. Just 3 questions this time, so 3 answers to the question, what are the challenges you have with data use? So shortage of data of GIS skills, being A, B, budget constraints, and C, poor quality data. So yeah, as you can see there, to achieve that holy grail, if you like, on-site visualization and awareness, you need that good quality data to begin with, and that starts with actually with great data capture techniques.
Yeah, and I think that's. Thank you for responding on the poll there. We can see the responses coming through. We'll share the result in 1 second. Poor quality data is a common theme here, I think. Yeah.
Excellent. Close that poll.
Close the poll, yeah.
Yeah, and just share the results, and we can see there that poor quality data is actually the top answer there. You know, and it's something we specialize in, you know, improving that as well as the use side of the pillars. All right.
Okay, thanks for that, Darius. We're now going to move to share a number of case studies, 3 case studies in fact, and I'm absolutely delighted. We're absolutely delighted to share these three powerful case studies from key brands and customers of MGISS who've deployed the kind of technology you've seen into the field successfully and have therefore recognised those benefits. But Darius, you didn't get much of a break there, so it's back over to you to go through the Carnell and MGISS case study.
No rest for the wicked. Back into it. So, case study 1. So is Carnell. So Carnell and MGISS have been working together for a number of years now. We've loved working with them as a friendly customer, and we've helped them in essentially overhauling their GNSS hardware fleet and data capture process. Carnell, the department we've been working with, water management, are specialists in drainage surveys, specifically on the highways. So DDMS is a drainage database management system, which is the system that they have to adhere to. So overhauling the fleet of GNSS and their process, they were having some difficulties with their existing system and produced tangible benefits, really, such as speedy right first time data capture process, increased productivity back office, and minimal back office data loss due to that live synchronization by using MGISS Online, that cloud-based system. He also found increased productivity with the centimeter level EOS Arrow Gold, which you can see in the picture here. And that receiver provides a consistent position, so even in challenging environments such as under tree canopy, and that kind of improved what they could do on site. Yeah, excellent case study. Moving on, I'm going to pass briefly back over to Eamonn.
Okay, thank you again, Darius. On screen, you can now see a case study based around FM Conway. So FM Conway, just to familiarise everyone else with the brand, they're a leading infrastructure services company, one of the UK's leading highway contractors, I would indeed, with a multi-billion pound turnover. As a business, FM Conway are passionate, committed to delivering vital services in transportation, the built environment, and also in open spaces for communities. But also as a business, they pride themselves in being an early adopter of technology to provide safe and effective working environments for their people. And actually, rather than me talking through on FM Conway's behalf over how they've adopted augmented reality in their operations using the MGISS application, I'm now going to get another rest and pass across to FM Conway's head of consultancy services, Darren Harlan, and play a short video.
We are tasked with looking for innovation within the business. And I noticed that we had lots of 3D information. Originally, that would be used in our design models and would be shown in 3D in the office, but giving it to the guys on site, it would generally be in a 2D drawing format, and was looking at ways that we could utilise that better on site to give to our site engineers and make that more useful. So the system is called MGISS. It can be used on a smart device. It integrates any 3D information and can augment that into your site location. We specifically, at this point in time, use it for ground penetrating radar and utilities. There are lots of guys out on site every day excavating in an environment that isn't always that safe, close to utilities, and I was aware that we do have service strikes within the company. So I looked at the information we have, and we have lots of GPR information for a number of our sites, and started to look at the way that we could integrate that into the system and start to use that on a site-by-site basis. The traditional way of doing this on site is to take the 2D information, trace that and spray that into the site location. So you have lots of site marks on the ground. Of course, when you're excavating, those marks will be removed and that information is lost. So the augmented reality really comes into its own, that it can project that information into the excavation and continue to show the operatives on site where the utilities are placed. So a constant way of being able to check. We've worked hard with the developers to develop a system that works for us. We've adapted it so that we get a two-dimensional line on the road that replicates the tracing that the operatives are used to seeing. From there, you can place the cursor on the lines that you're interested in, and that will project the 3D information in front of you, keeping everything on site as simple as possible. And when it projects that 3D information, it shows you the depth of the utility and also a visual representation of the size and a label for what that utility is. So up until now, calibration has been a manual process. We've now developed a QR code system where these can be over strategic points on the site. You can use your smartphone to scan a QR code, and this system itself will calibrate the area, making it a much quicker setup and something that can be physically put on site. The QR codes can be there permanently, and every time you visit site, everyone can calibrate over the same point. So in the urban area, particularly Westminster and the City of London, the footways and carriageways can be particularly congested with utilities because of demand in that area. So this really shows both the clients and the operatives on site just the complexity of the areas that we're working in. So the system also is able to undertake reality capture. This again is used on the smart device through the app, and it scans excavations in our case and documents what's been found in that excavation. This means that if any future tests need to be undertaken, the site doesn't need to be excavated again, so reducing risk in that area. VGISS helps safeguard our operatives on site, giving them better and more detailed information when they're undertaking potentially dangerous work.
Okay, thank you very much to Darren for those comments. We'll also now look into a third case study based around MGJV, Galliford Try, and back to you, Darius.
Brilliant. That was great. Thanks, Eamonn. So final case study.
We are tasked with looking.
Play that again. So yeah, MGJV are construction primarily company, and a joint venture between Galliford Try and Murphy's. They specialize in building large infrastructure utility assets. For them, we've added a value in a number of ways. For build design, they primarily work with Autodesk Civils 3D, which many of you might be familiar with. However, when building a strategic utility asset over very large distances, GIS also definitely has its place. Therefore, they needed to convert between the two, and in this case, CAD Transform was the answer, to bring their drawings into the more kind of geographic world of GIS. So they used also our expertise in survey grade Arches field maps data capture to build a setting out tool. So this solution massively saved time, reduced the need for all those bulky total stations and other equipment on site, and the result was lightweight, slick, centimeter accurate capture system, which allowed them to set out their pipeline trenches using GIS directly. It's really easy to use as well. This is now being used live on Strategic Pipeline project, along with another solution for accurate 3D capture of trial holes directly into GIS. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to pass back over to Eamonn for a final recap and wash up, really.
Yeah. Okay, thanks again, Darius. Fascinating case studies, I'm sure everyone will agree. I just want to run through a short recap, but while I do so, I'd like to invite you all to post up any questions that you may have using the chat box and on the Zoom screen, and we will pick up any responses as time permits after we've completed this recap. So just to look back again, we considered the theme of precision meets prevention, and at the value that can be realized through good quality data, and how this can play into improved safety on site, greater efficiency in operations, and improved effectiveness right through the build process. We then drilled down into the sub-processes of capturing data by applying GNSS technology to provide precise position, integrated with your mobile devices on site. And on screen, you can see both Leica and Arrow GNSS receivers, both of which support this high-level accuracy capture. We also spoke of managing data and how we saw the adoption of ArcGIS online applications supported by MGISS data management tools can simplify and automate the management of your data across the instruction environment. On the use theme, we saw how augmented reality provides visualization of design or as-built data, be this above ground or below ground on site, and very rapidly and near real time synchronized into the back office application. We saw how the surface could be rolled back to reveal the underground context in position and with rich attribution attached to that data. And through the case studies, we saw how Carnell's FM Conway and MGJV achieve success in highways and construction processes by adopting GIS both off-site and on-site for the design processes, for stakeout and as-built, and delivering those benefits into safety and efficiency. And so hopefully we're now allowed enough time for people to have posted a few questions during that recap.
Yeah.
And so
sure, and yeah, just worth emphasising the fact that you've got that common thread of the same equipment, same hardware, GNSS hardware, right the way through capture, manage, use there. With a bit of consultancy services from MGISS and training, underpinned by your GIS system. It's not a big jump to get there, really. Okay. So let's see.
Looking through it, some questions which we've picked up. There's a question here about how we can use under or inside buildings.
Yeah.
And can you use total stations? So
yes. So brilliant question. One we get a lot. So the answer in reference to VGIS is yes, it can be used inside indoors where you don't have any GNSS position. Simply, as demonstrated in the video with Darren and the FM Conway video, the QR calibration method allows you to use VGIS without GNSS. The other question is, can you use this with a total station? The answer is yes, you can configure that with total station. There's some documentation we can send on to you regarding that. Great question, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Another question flagged up here. How do you get 2 centimeter accuracy? I'm going to point to Darius again for a response here.
Sure. So the simple answer is, unfortunately, you can't just use your mobile phone to get that accuracy. Not yet. You need to plug in some technology. The technology that we've seen in the videos here, such as the FLX 100 or the Arrow Gold, along with a RTK subscription. And these are the 2 things you need, but very lightweight solution with the option to mount on a pole, and that will give you 2 centimeters or below.
Okay, thanks, Darius. So another question: how do you connect a phone to a GNSS receiver?
One word: Bluetooth.
Yeah. Easy. Okay.
Question,
what data sources does VGIS support? Darius, again, if I point to.
A very common one we get. There's a great support for all the Autodesk platform, really. So you've got CAD drawings, DWGs, DXFs, flat files, but also the Revit, Navisworks plugins, and Autodesk Build as well is also supported. More commonly in rail, you would see Bentley, but that Bentley and Bentley iTwin support. And then in terms of GIS support for ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise if you host on premise, and flat files such as shape files as well. Great question again. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pick up the question over Nuar's been NUAR, National Underground Asset Register. There's a question posted up. Do you capture a solution for NUAR? So for those who aren't available, the NUAR is a government-driven scheme which is launched through the Geospatial Commission to make underground assets available to a wide range of users, primarily to be shared across the asset owners. But we're encouraging the freeing up of that kind of data. So we, in fact, on the slide there, you can see something which says a starter pack promotion available this month. The link below there talks of MGISS's proposal for NUAR ready solution, and so I'd encourage anyone on the call to go and check out that link. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Short answer is yes, but yeah, it'd be ideal if we can just plug that directly into VGIS and see those assets below your feet without any work. So another question come in here from one of our delegates. So is there additional equipment required to get the 3D imaging? So you mentioned a LiDAR, but the chap was using just the phone. Does it just use the camera? So good question. So I mentioned a LiDAR because the modern iPhone and iPad have that LiDAR point cloud capture technology built into them, and VGIS could take advantage of that. It has an application that uses that technology along with the positioning information from the GNSS to capture a georeference point cloud live, essentially. However, we understand a lot of our potential users don't have iPhones or iOS, and they use Android, so that it works in a slightly different way. You can just use the phone again to capture the reality, to perform the reality capture. However, you'll be using the techniques to process that will be photogrammetry instead, but the results will be the same. It takes a little while longer with Android, but yeah, same georeferenced scan is produced. Good question.
Okay, yeah. Thanks again for that question. Someone's clearly picked up on the mention of CAD transform and the value of that. So, where basically the question is, where can we get CAD transform?
Yeah. So we mentioned before, we can email the link to everyone, but essentially it's a free app that you can access from the MGISS marketplace. So even if you find the MGISS marketplace and Google CAD transform, you'll find the app there. It's free to download and install if you have MGISS Pro. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the question again. And just picking up on the big $64,000 question, although not quite that much. How much does it all cost? Okay, always a great question. Pricing, of course, is always going to depend on the client need, the level of consultancy required in order to mobilize your teams. You say this is not we are trying to put engineering quality data into the hands of the non-engineer. But there was, people start from a different place, and so some help is usually required. Also, part of the price is this using the correct hardware and software configuration to match the need. For example, which is the best and most appropriate GNSS receiver? Is AR visualization required on that site and in your application? How much support would be required? So very difficult to give a single price, but what I would say is, again, on the link that is shared on screen, back to that NUAR ready solution. So MGISS are offering a NUAR ready kind of bundle of equipment, which includes the Leica FLX100 GNSS receiver. A GNSS receiver is typically the most costly component of any of these solutions. It includes for a SmartNet RTK correction license. It also includes for ArcGIS Pro online basic license with the fieldworker extension. These are the basic components that are needed essentially to mobilize. And again, if you follow that link, you will see that a bundle price available there, which describes that configuration. What I would also mention is users can also take advantage of rental schemes. At MGISS here we do offer rental, and also a principle of hire before you buy, where you may need some support and some piloting on site just to check that the technology works for you and that you're able to adopt that technology on site and realize those benefits. And so again, something which I could encourage all users to contact MGISS, and we can help you with that. And a really key point I think I should mention is that, of course, we will be offering any additional discounting to all attendees of this webinar. So by the fact that you've attended this webinar, we want to recognise that time and input, and so we can take advantage of that discount to all attendees. That looks like we might have concluded the questions just at the moment. Any outstanding questions or anything you do want to post up as we wrap up, we will pick up and we will respond. We will contact everyone who's attended for the webinar and everyone who's registered, and we will we'll make sure that we provide that basic information and that response to all those questions. So really, I think it just with the few minutes that remain leads me into a wrap up and to thank everyone. I want to thank Darius, my colleague here, for sharing his expertise and experience. I want to thank our partners and clients we've referenced in this call. In particular, I wanted to mention Leica Geosystems for use of their training facility in Cheshire to collect some of the video footage that you saw. And indeed, as a side note, I just want to mention that at MGISS we're planning to run an invitation day, an open day at the Leica site in early June. Date yet to be confirmed and all those arrangements, but all are invited, of course, to join that event. I'd say watch this space, watch our LinkedIn presence for confirmation there and registration. And I want to thank you all for posing your questions, and thank all for attending and taking the time out of a busy schedule. Best wishes for a successful remainder of the day, and if you're able to find time within that busy day to message MGISS, provide a bit of feedback or pick up on any of the items that you've seen, then we'd really be pleased to speak with you. And I think on that note, we'll take out a couple of minutes of save time. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and I'm sure Darius would want to extend his thanks as well.
Yeah, thanks for sparing the time out of your day. It's much appreciated.
Thanks and goodbye.
Bye.